Hello everyone, welcome to week 9 and also welcome back from the spring break. This week we will discuss chapter 4 of the Hammond book, Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain. The chapter is titled Preparing to be a Culturally Responsive Practitioner. In this chapter, Homer emphasized that cultural responsive teaching is not only about instructional strategy. Instead, he begins with a teacher mindset, self-awareness, and the professional responsibility. We will talk about how teachers reflect on their belief, recognize bias, and build respectful relationships with the students and family from diverse cultural backgrounds. Learning objective. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to do several things. First, you should be able to explain what it means to be a culturally responsive practitioner. Second, you will reflect on how teacher belief and the bias can influence classroom interaction and expectation. Third, we will discuss the importance of the self-reflection, which is a key component of the cultural responsive teaching. Finally, you will think about how teachers can build supportive and respectful relationship with the student and family from a diverse cultural background. These ideas are important for the future educator because classrooms today are increasing diverse. Now let's talk about key idea for the culturally responsive teaching is a mindset. One of the most important idea Homer discussed in this chapter is that culturally responsive teaching is a mindset. It is not simply a list of the teaching strategy or an activity. Instead, it is about how teachers see their students, how they interpret student behavior, and how they build relationships in the classroom. Teachers who practice culturally responsive teaching believe that all students are capable learners and they recognize that students bring valuable cultural experiences into the classroom. Because of this, teachers must think carefully about their own beliefs influence their teaching. What does he mean, the inside-out world of the teaching? Homer describes culturally responsive teaching as an inside-out world. This means that teachers must first examine their own thinking and belief before they can effectively support diverse learners. This includes developing the right method, engaging in a self-reflection, recognizing implicit bias, and building emotional awareness. When teachers understand themselves better, they are better able to create the classroom that supports the students from a different cultural background. This type of the reflection is an important step in becoming a culturally responsive practitioner. Why teacher reflection matter? Teacher reflection play a very important role in the culturally responsive teaching. Reflection allows the teacher to examine their belief, assumption, and expectation about the student. For example, teacher might ask themselves questions such as, how do my experience shape the way I interpret student behavior? Do I hold the different expectations for different groups of the student? Through the reflection, teacher can identify practices that might unintentionally create barrier for some students. By reflecting on their teaching, educators can continue to improve their practice and create more equitable learning environments. Another important concept discussed in this chapter is implicit bias. Implicit bias refers to unconscious attitude or belief that influence how we interpret situations and interact with others. Sometimes teachers may not even recognize this bias exists. However, this bias can influence important decisions such as classroom expectation and also how teachers respond to the student participation, opportunity given to the student. Recognizing implicit bias is an important step in building fair and inclusive classroom. Examining our own culture. Hammond also explained that teachers need to examine their own cultural perspective. Cultural influence how we communicate and how we interpret behavior and how we view learning. Because our own culture feels familiar, we sometimes assume that our way of thinking is the normal or correct way. However, students may come from a cultural background with a different communication style, learning preference, or family expectation. When teachers become aware of their own cultural perspective, they can better understand and respect the cultural experience of their students. How to create a safe learning environment for our learner. Another key idea in this chapter is the importance of creating safe and supportive learning environments. Research on the brain shows that when students feel stress, fear, and stress, it becomes more difficult for them to focus and learn. In contrast, when students feel safe, respected, and valued, their brains are more open to learn. Teachers can support this by building positive relationships, showing respect for the student's cultural identity, and creating a classroom climate where the students feel comfortable participating. Let's talk about teacher intention and commitment. Becoming a culturally responsive teaching requires intentional effort and commitment. This is not something that happens automatically. Teachers must continue learning about cultural diversity, reflect on their teaching practice, and seek opportunity for professional growth. This might include attending professional development workshops, reading research, or learning more about community where their students live. Culturally responsive teaching is a continued learning process throughout a teacher's career. Strong relationships between teacher and student are essential for effective learning. When students trust their teacher, they are more likely to participate, ask questions, or take academic risks. Students also feel more motivated when they believe their teacher care about their success. Building this relationship requires the teacher to listen carefully, respect student experiences, and create an environment where students feel seen, heard, and valued. Before we move to this week's assignment, I would like you to reflect on your future role as a teacher. Think about the following question. What step can you take to become a more culturally responsive teacher? You might think about how you will reflect on your own belief, learn about student cultural background, and build strong partnership with the family. This reflection will help you prepare for your work as a future educator. This week, you will complete an assignment called Culturally Responsive Family Support Scenarios. In this assignment, you will analyze the real classroom situation involving the family, particularly family from the cultural and linguistically diverse background. You will think about how teachers can respond in ways that support families, build trust, and ensure that families feel included in important decisions about their children's education. This assignment connects directly to the idea we discussed in the homework chapter. Now, let's talk about key takeaways from this chapter. To summarize, the culturally responsive teaching begins with a teacher awareness and reflection. Teachers must be willing to examine their own beliefs and recognize the bias, and continue learning about cultural diversity. Building a strong relationship with the student and the family is also initial. Most importantly, becoming a cultural responsive teacher is an ongoing journey of the professional growth and reflection. As a future educator, this practice will help you to create the classroom where all students feel respected, supported, and be able to succeed.